So, to no one's surprise, the Boston Celtics have made the NBA Finals. And it wasn't all that close on their way to the finals. The teams they played dealt with injuries. However, their series against the Pacers was very close. And I'm going to get to that a little bit later. But first, I want to talk about why I'm scared for the Celtics. They're still a tremendously talented team. Historic season, a dominant postseason, regardless of the injuries that they faced. But I'm a little scared because we're most likely going to face the Dallas Mavericks. And Luka and Kyrie are two of the biggest big-time players, best big-time players I've seen. I mean, these guys are lights out, and it's just not even close. First of all, their skill and their talent and their ability to dominate the game is just second to none. I mean, Kyrie's already won a title. I mean, he's dominated before. Luka is Luka. I mean, the guy hasn't won a title yet, but he's been as dominant as ever to start his career. And their ability to just turn it up in the fourth quarter and just shut it down is ridiculous. I mean, in their 3 games against the Timberwolves, who were considered to be the best defensive team in the playoffs by a lot of people, if not the second or third best, they've turned it up in 3 close games against the Timberwolves. In Game 1, Kyrie and Luka combined for 19 points in the fourth quarter. Game 2, they combined for 18 in the fourth quarter. And Game 3, they combined for 21 in the fourth. Good for 19.3 points per game in the fourth against the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's lights out right there. Luka had the game winner. Kyrie had a big shot in Game 3. I mean, and not to mention the rest of their team too. I mean, the trades they made really, really pushed this team over the edge. PJ Washington has been great. Gafford has been great. Lively took a big shot to the head by an errant knee, but he's been really good. He's a good compliment to those guys. And this team is just solid, but I'm just a little scared of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving because these guys are as big time as it gets. It's ridiculous. But the reason I'm also optimistic or confident is because of what the Celtics did in this series against the Pacers. Now, yeah, they missed Haliburton for 2 games, but Nembhard, he's a stud. He filled in very nicely for them. I know their defense isn't great, but their offense is phenomenal. And they were in 3 close games with the Celtics. I mean, 2 of which they probably should have won. But the Celtics showed that they can make plays down the stretch in the fourth quarter as well. I know, if you're a Celtics fan, they tend to blow leads in the fourth. I mean, they weren't up in really any of these games by a lot in the fourth quarter, but the regular season, they've blown leads in the fourth. They blew a 20-point lead to the Cavs in a fourth quarter during the regular season. So they do it. They had close games against the Nuggets. They couldn't finish. I mean, that's the Nuggets, but still, we were concerned about what are they going to do when it's a close game in the fourth quarter. They're killing all these teams. Like, what about if it's a close game? And I was wondering the same thing because, I need to know that they could do it because they're going to be in close games in the finals. But they showed they can do it, and they showed it's more than 1 or 2 guys like the Mavericks. You might only need 1 or 2 guys, but to have 4 guys and probably 5 when Porzingis is back, if he's back, being able to make huge plays down the stretch is incredible. I mean, you have Jaylen Brown tying the game in Game 1 to send it to overtime. Big time shot. Then you have Tatum taking over in overtime, scoring 10 points or whatever it was. Another big time performance there. Then you have Game 2 is kind of a blowout. Then you have Game 3 where you have Drew Holiday makes a huge defensive stop at the end of the game and then hits 2 free throws. There's another guy making plays. This next game, Derek White hits a massive 3 with 45 seconds left to put us up by 3. another massive, massive play. So that's 4 guys right there who have done big time things down the stretch. And Tatum made a great defensive stop at the end of game 1, shut down Halliburton. So 4 guys on both ends of the court making humongous plays to help the Celtics win. I mean, you can say what you want about the Pacers, but at that point, any team can be close with any other team at any given time. And once you're in the fourth quarter, the game's close or you're losing, you're only up by a few. It doesn't matter who you're playing. Like, you're in this game, you need to do what you can to win. Doesn't matter who the opponent is. Like, they're in this game, it's a close game. You got to figure out a way to win. And the Celtics did just that. And I was surprised, really surprised, actually, that they won game 1. But I was just surprised at how great they played in those close games. I mean, it doesn't really change. If you're great early in the game, you're great later in the game. It's just sometimes you don't hit the shot or sometimes you don't make the play. I mean, that's just how sports work. But to be able to do that for 3 games this series, I love that. That's very impressive. It gives me more confidence, and I was rooting for close games to see what they could do, and that's exactly what I got. And they showed they could do it. So, Kyrie, Luka, scary. They're just monsters, and they can just shut it down in the fourth. They can end you in the fourth. But the Celtics also showed they can play big in the fourth. And, Pacers maybe not as experienced as the Mavericks, so it could be different. But still, that gives me a lot of confidence right there. And a message to Celtics fans, and, the team has to know this. You're not going to sweep the Mavericks. You're not going to beat them in 5, most likely. You will probably win in 6 or 7 games if you win. You might not even win. I mean, this team is really good. But, don't get worked up about a loss. You can get a little worked up about a loss to these teams in the East that are shorthanded, banged up. Like, they probably should have swept their way to the finals. But you can't get overworked about a loss to the Mavericks. You got to just move on to the next game because this team is really, really good. Definitely going to be the biggest challenge. We'll see what happens in game 4. I'm just assuming Dallas wins, but yeah, I mean, if you're a Boston fan, comment down below what you think. If you're not a Boston fan, comment down below what you think, because I know everyone's rooting against Boston, which is fine. But those are just my thoughts on the finals coming up, and what has gone on with the Celtics throughout the playoffs so far. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.